other cool thing is, coming up the tunnel, Blake said it, down to Michigan State, and the offensive line, congratulating them on the game and on the state coach.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome in Maize and Blue Review. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis 50. We are ready to get things underway, and we got a lot to get to. That was Jim Harbaugh. Blake Corum in the tunnel, even before they got into the locker room, was saying it's on to state. And a little bit of foreshadowing. We've got some tunnel talk coming your way this afternoon. You may have heard about that little item over the last 24 hours or so. We'll also get into, I don't know, it was yesterday. We were reading some of the feedback, and somebody mentioned that, the small amount of passes that were thrown into the end zone, targeting wide receivers in the red zone. I know it's a big mouthful. And we'll have some red zone analysis for you coming up. And we will also talk about the freshman impact for the Wolverines. And they've had a little bit of a freshman impact, and that's where we're going to start. If you're out there and you would like to get your thoughts, you have an opinion, you have a question, go ahead, put it up on the screen, and I'll try to get to all of them here. If you're somebody that's just tuning in for the first time, welcome. We're glad to have you aboard. We're here live weekdays at 1 o'clock. We talk about the latest in Michigan sports, part of the Maize and Blue Review presented by Rivals, and it's always good to get in here and talk with Michigan fans. But to be honest, like right now, everything is going great for Michigan. Like, it's not always like this, it's as you know, it's not always like this. So, I'm just sitting back during this bye week and, really chilling. I love the fall colors. They're all out there, the yellows and the reds, and the leaves aren't really down on the ground right now. So that looks pretty cool. The weather for this weekend looks spectacular. It would be nice if Michigan was playing, and you had the beautiful weather. But with them not playing, it's nice having the beautiful weather because you can get out and about. I don't know if we're going to have a stretch of 3-4 days like we're going to have this weekend for the rest of the fall and obviously the winter. So that's cool. And, just right now, it's a lot of, like, you're a sports fan and you're a Michigan fan. You just look around and everything's looking really good. Michigan 7-0. Number 3, number 4 team in the country. They got Michigan State coming in. You got hockey, college and pro underway. Pro basketball tipped off last night. I was watching it. The Detroit Pistons, they start their season out tonight. That's cool. That means Juwan Howard and company are coming in right behind him. We all know that. And I think Juwan Howard and the Michigan basketball team, they're poised to get some really good news tomorrow on the recruiting front. So that's exciting as well. So here we go. I mean, it is all awesome. Let's see if there's any questions right out of the gate. And we have a prediction for the Michigan State game. I haven't even thought about a number. I like Michigan to win the game. But Triple B is putting up a score of 52-13. I'd take that right now. I'd take that. SNBI says his little brother is a student assistant coach for state, and he's going to say it now. 50-7. 50-7. I would also take, if I'm going to take 52-13, I'll take 50-7. JP, he's awesome. Here he is down in the Peach State saying it's 55 degrees there, loves this weather. Go Blue. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you. I can remember, was it 95, 94? So that's an odd numbers. They play up at Michigan State. So 95 would have been at Michigan State. So I'm thinking 96 when Michigan beat, was it 50-3? And what I can recall is, and I'll see if I can dig up the pictures over the next 2 weeks. There was sometimes you end up you get in a picture, you're just in the locker room or whatever else. That particular game, the 50-3 game, it might have been Bobby Williams. Was it his last game coaching? Certainly, it was his last year, where he was asked by a former Spartan and a guy that works for Bally's, Mickey York, if he had lost his team, and Bobby was like, I don't know. And so when you say that, if you don't know if you lost your team, you're out. And he was out. But I can recall many people over the years saying that I was involved with the picture. I'm just standing there. It's not like I'm smiling, like, yeah, he's gone. Or, giving him the whatever that is, face wash or whatever else. No, I'm just standing there with a microphone. But I'll see if I can dig that picture up. So the freshman impact this year, I would think a little bit of a surprise. I have 9 players listed up on the board. I'll go through them for those of you that are just listening on the podcast. We like you as well, and we want to be very descriptive for you so you know what's going on. You're like, you guys sound like you're just over there watching TV. Fair point. That was some good feedback that I heard over the last 48 hours. But the 9 players that I have listed, these are the guys that are not going to redshirt this year. They have already played more than 4 games. And I think you can hold it to me. I'll say, I think all 9 players have played in all 7 games. So they have burned their red shirt. There might be another 1 or 2. Of course, if you play 4 games, you could still keep your red shirt. So, a guy like Alex Orji, we have seen him in some games, but I don't think Orji has played more than 4 games. So I think you can get 4 more. I think you can, you keep Orji and you keep his red shirt. And hopefully they are able to do that. You don't have to start going down, but they might want to. Talk about an Orji package and short yardage and everything else. Maybe they will want to burn his red shirt. I don't know, but I would just look at the guys that are up there. A little bit of a surprise. The biggest surprise, and we found out in fall camp when Jim Harbaugh came out and released the depth chart, and Mason Graham, a true freshman, was starting in the middle of the Michigan defense down on the defensive line, and you see players start as true or play. Not many start. But to get a start as a true freshman, Mason Graham has been a phenom, really, to think about the strength that you need to play on the defensive line and then to be able to come right in. He was in for spring, but to be able to do it like he did, a really amazing job and a big surprise to me. And also, same thing with Kenneth Grant. You heard great things about Kenneth Grant, number 78. He's a gigantic guy, whatever he weighs, 340, 35s. Incredible athlete. These guys all are, but he's even a bigger, at his size, some of the things that he's able to do. But before the season, and I said it, I'm like, it's great that Michigan likes them and they're getting all this, preseason pub, but really when it comes down to it, I don't think either of these guys are going to have an impact or anything else. And yet here they are midway through the season, and Graham certainly is an impact guy. And Harbaugh, I heard on his bye week, I didn't hear it. I read it, the transcript of his bye-week radio show, that he wants to get Grant even more in there. Speaking of more, Derek Moore, we've seen flashes of the true freshman rush end, number 8. He's got a couple sacks. Rolder just popped up, talking about Jimmy Rolder, number 30. He just popped up a couple games ago. Was it against Iowa in the second half? You hear Gus Johnson, and that tackles by Jimmy Rolder. You're like, Jimmy Rolder in there in the second half. So, Rolder been a little bit surprised that he's in there. Will Johnson, not a surprise. Will Johnson was the highest rated recruit in the entire Big Ten, offense, defense, whatever. So that Will Johnson was going to get out there and play was expected. And Will Johnson has not disappointed. He's been good. Really good. You feel good about Will Johnson back there. Colston Loveland has been thrust into a spot with some snaps because of the Eric All injury. And Michigan has Luke Schoonmaker. But Loveland caught, I think, he had his biggest play for Michigan last week, but there was a penalty. That was the bad penalty that nobody liked, where they called the I think Bredesen on the line that he wasn't far enough back, or was he on the line? He has to clear the center, whatever. I mean, those are some of those technicalities that don't get called very often, but they did, and it took the catch away from Loveland. But they love him. They love Loveland. A big heart next to Colston out of Idaho. Darius Clemens has played in all the games. They've targeted him a little bit. And if there wasn't such a log jam at wide receiver for Michigan, you'd probably see a lot more of Clemens, who, showed out in the spring game, what he could do. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Remember last year, it was Andrell Anthony. It wasn't until the Michigan State game, so the 8th game of the year, that Andrell Anthony came on like gangbusters and had that great game. And so, now in the second half, you even expected even more, as these guys get acclimated as true freshmen. CJ Stokes, we know he had that fumble, but he was in there late on Saturday against Penn State, gaining yards against the Nittany Lions. And, Harbaugh on that radio show that I referenced earlier, I read, he said, he was talking about special teams, and he mentioned Micah Pollard. That's with Braylon's nephew. He mentioned Micah as doing a nice job on special teams, coming down and making a big hit at the on the 12 after a kick. So there they are. They have done a good job, those 9, and those guys are going to redshirt. Not redshirt. Sorry. Let's see where everyone is sitting here in terms of the messages and the feedback. Triple B. MSU wins close games, then Michigan blows them out. Seems like the trend lately. Oh, well, State has won some close games. You are right about that. Chris is asking a question. Why hasn't JJ been throwing the deep ball? Do it now, because we are going to need it later. Yeah, from your message right down to Schembechler, right into the playbook, Chris. We'd like to see that a little bit more. He was throwing deep balls in the non-con and looked great, but then he was having trouble putting the ball on the receivers down the field. And then they, talked about, well, he's just getting a strength. Like, he doesn't know his own strength with his arm. He even talked about that. And then I don't even think he had any deep shots against Penn State, but against Indiana or Iowa, he missed Roman Wilson deep. Why hasn't he been throwing the ball deep? Well, teams it's a trend in college football and in the NFL where defenses are taking away the deep third, and they are forcing quarterbacks to get the ball out quick. They're also doing a really good job. Teams are now with exotic blitzes and being able to get to the quarterback. That combination of things makes it difficult to stand back there and have some kind of, double move and be able to whip the ball deep. Plus, JJ has not been able to hit his receivers. I agree. If we're talking about the next step, I said it yesterday, Hendon Hooker, for Tennessee, he was out there just throwing the ball 60 yards down the field. The guy falling right in the breadbasket. You're like, wow, this guy's awesome. That's next level stuff. And for Michigan and their offense, and for JJ, when he is able to fire the ball down the field and put it on his receiver and take the top off of the defense and everything else, it's, Michigan's the number 3 team in the country. If he is able to do that in the second half, that is on the to-do list, you're talking about Michigan as a big time contender for everything. But right, Chris, it's there. It's sitting there. And we all know it. We're all talking about it. And I get it. 44-6, Michigan wins. It gets chippy late. There's from Tyler. Richard S., the feedback king. He likes Stokes and Loveland a lot. Both look like big play prospects. I agree with you. I like everything about Stokes. I was surprised they didn't get Stokes right back out there after his fumble. A lot of coaches like to do that. And instead, it seemed like they put him in the doghouse for a couple of weeks. But whatever. I think that just goes maybe with being a freshman or whatever else. But maybe he's had some security. Maybe that tells us that he's had some security issues in practice, because he certainly didn't see the light of day for a while. Okay. We've got about 10 minutes to go in this show. It's going to be a condensed show. So let's get some of the feedback, and I want to watch a little tape with you on the red zone. With MSU's pass defense being so horrible this year, I do believe they will open up the passing game to get those guys some live reps. I'm sure they're working on it with the 4 days a week behind the scenes. Yeah, I mean, like Michigan State, terrible pass defense. You can take anything you want in the pass game. Why wouldn't Michigan explore that in like a boxer when you open up the eye of your opponent? Why wouldn't you just keep going in there and dabbing that over there and open it up if you're Michigan with the passing game? When that's the biggest biggest weakness. Harbaugh knows that. We know it. Everybody knows it. Their eyes swollen shut. Yeah, Michigan's coming out of their corner with some haymakers and an early knockout. I think that is fair. All right, is this fair? Does James Franklin have a point? I'm going to read a tweet from Spencer Ripcheck. He works, I think he's a student. If not, he just recently was in State College. And here's the tweet. It reads, James Franklin said Michigan's one tunnel is a problem. Quote, we need to put a policy in place to stop this. That was the quote from James Franklin. He was referencing the confrontation at half between Michigan and Penn State. Now, of course, Michigan fans were like, this guy's some, complete, everything else. What a crybaby. Everything. And I think Michigan fans have a point there. But does James Franklin have a point about the tunnel? If I'm going to be honest, and I am, I'm going to be honest. Like the tunnel over there, Michigan's game day staff and security, they've got a guy up there with a walkie-talkie. They've got a guy down at the bottom waiting, telling Michigan to wait. And then the guy's like, okay, go ahead, let him through. Now, was it the exact same timing as always? Did they really have that communication? I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do know that they have that in place already. Will they put a little James Franklin buffer in the future? Like, let's hang on an extra 30 seconds. If you've ever been down there by the locker rooms, they're right across from each other. And, there's sure enough, there's double doors there. But when you got 100 people and they're going up the tunnel and they're walking up there, maybe some guys are banged up or whatever else, it's congested. There's always a few guys that are hanging out on the outside. And then here comes Michigan. And you're just asking for it. So Michigan could put a divider up there. I think that would help. They could put a James Franklin buffer of a couple more seconds. That would help. So I think actually Franklin has a point. Now, when his team gets smeared and we hear that Penn State was throwing sandwiches or something, specifically peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at Michigan, trying to give James Franklin, even like somebody that will give people the benefit of the doubt, even in a rivalry, even when everybody else is just like, this guy's out of his mind. He loses his credibility. He doesn't say anything about any sandwich throwing, and he's putting it on Michigan. He comes off definitely as a crybaby. I would say, it's mostly just rivalry stuff. Nobody got hurt. The day that the tunnel is dedicated to Lloyd Carr, there's an issue, and there's almost never an issue. Sometimes against Ohio State, probably some others, that have the things that have happened there, but. The day that the tunnel is dedicated, the Lloyd Carr tunnel, we've got an altercation, a confrontation in the tunnel. So, mostly I'm going to sit back and say, hey, this is rivalry stuff. This is good for, and it's weird to say, good for college football, good for the rivalry and all of that. We'll talk about it, in years down the line. The peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that were thrown by the Penn State Nittany Lions. But I'll say this on the side of, and I don't know exactly how it works with, somebody throwing something. We see it all the time before the game where teams come out and, there's jaw jacking, hold us back. And we remember up at Michigan State when you had Devin Bush and everything and the locked arms to the Spartans and, game, the game rundown before the season or before the game, who could be out on the field and all that. And that was rivalry stuff. You don't want it to come to fisticuffs and pushing and shoving before the game. You get it, You understand that kind of stuff. And now that we're beyond it and nobody got hurt, you can have a little fun with it. Here's the thing that you see in sports. We get the pushing and shoving and the trash talk. It's part of it. Even a little, shoving. You get that. Where things escalate is when somebody throws something. where certainly somebody like will spit on an opponent. You're asking for it. You're asking for a fist right in the face. And, if I'm Michigan and I'm going to applaud Michigan if a sandwich was thrown at a Michigan football player, we're having fun with it, but if a sandwich was thrown at a Michigan football player and it hit him in the face, and they were like, we're going to get you in the second half. Let's get into the locker room. I applaud them because as much as I say you got to keep your cool and, hey, it's on the field in between the lines and, hey, we get some of the pushing and shoving. Somebody throws a sandwich, that's the time you break your hand and you go over there and you start swinging your helmet, you start punching somebody in the face. So Penn State's lucky, James Franklin's lucky that his team or that he didn't get a elbow right in the face, in the kisser. That's the lucky part of this. So even though James Franklin has a point, he is lucky. And I don't know exactly how it went down. I think there was some reporting about Michigan saying, yeah, there was a sandwich and hit, whatever. Penn State's lucky that they didn't they got punched out on the field, but they're lucky that nothing escalated in the tunnel, Franklin. I mean, what the hell? You're going to have your guys, we need something to happen here. Oh, our guys are launching PB&Js at the team. What a joke. So I try to take it as easy as I can on that and everything else. But, when it comes down to it, I'll be there in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. All right, let's tell you about the Red Zone. And tomorrow we'll watch some of this film on the Red Zone. I've got some of the numbers. They're like, Michigan needs to do better in the red zone. If you look at it up at the top, Clemson 35 times in, they've got 14 touchdowns and they're 1,000%. Ohio State, they have been in the red zone 29 times and they have, 13 rushing touchdowns and 14 passing touchdowns. They have only had to settle for field goals 2 times. And if you look, 14 and 12 for Clemson. And Tennessee's up there too. These are all the really good teams are really good in the red zone at not kicking field goals. Not only are, they're scoring, which gets their percentage, perfect for Clemson, Ohio State, and Tennessee, but they are scoring touchdowns. And Michigan's way down at 32. Michigan will want to do better than the numbers that they have. And it is 39 times in the red zone. 18 rushing touchdowns, 8 passing touchdowns, but they've had to settle for 10 field goals. So they do want to do better, but they've shown creativity. It's not just been, we're just turning it around and, running it like, they need Haskins. They need to target the receivers. I've watched some of the red zone and what to do. We'll talk about that. I've got to run. I've got to help. And so today's going to be a short version. Let's call this a short, a good afternoon Michigan football short. Thanks for being with us. I'll be with you tomorrow at 1:00. Until then, everybody have a great day. Bye.